Hi. If you're here, you're probably coming from my Instagram. I've threatened to make a video and here I am delivering. I've been very bored and very unmotivated in this time, even though I do have something to do, which I did do, but not in the masses. I should be doing it. And that also means that I have less time for knitting, and so my creativity kind of feels like it's just not there. It's just like I have a lot of it and I don't know where to put it. And I've been wanting to engage more. I've been wanting to talk more. That's kind of the thing, because I'm living in a single household. The only one I have to talk to is my cat. And as much as she likes to respond, it's just, you know, she can't share the love I have for yarn and knitting. So I thought, why not try to make it easier to have a conversation with others who share my obsession. So for this episode, I'm already talking an episode, I wanted to show you the projects I'm working on right now and talk a little bit about them and talk about, is it a whip or a UFO if the ends are not sewn in? That's the first question you can answer me in the comments. Because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 projects sitting right here, which still have not have their ends sewn in. One of those projects is as old as, if we're talking about the first prototype, as old as November 18. Go into my Instagram feed and see if you can find the project I mean. If you do, I'll give you a shout out in the next video. That would be fun. That would be fun to me. I don't know. My definition of fun might be off. But anyway, let's start about the first one that I'm actually currently actively working on. And if you've been on my feed, I think you should have seen in my stories that I've been working on this and that I have been a lot further along, because these are, well, maybe I should turn them around. This is how they will be worn. These are the Ripple Butt Shorts by Jessie May, and I had to rock them. You can tell by my expression that I really love that. Yeah, I think when did I frock them? I think on Sunday, because by Sunday I was ready to separate for the legs, and I did that. And when I did it like 2 inches, no, not 1 inch, I tried them on, and then I saw that they were too big, because I'm not, I didn't get gauge. I'm not knitting with a DK, in a DK weight. I'm knitting in a fingering weight. That's something I could do a whole nother video about, you know, fingering weights or DK weights, which are supposed to be DK weights, which in my opinion are just fingering weights. You know, when it comes down to yarn weights, I feel like everyone is doing whatever they want. No one is restricting themselves to real rules. And it's like anything can be fingering weight. And I'm kind of at a loss sometimes. It's like, that's a DK weight? It looks like a fingering weight. And that's a fingering, that looks like a DK weight. What the hell is going on here? But anyway, this pattern, I think, calls for a worsted weight, a DK weight, a sport weight, or a fingering weight held double. I want to make a set, so I'm very sure I'll make my little secret crop top in the same colorway, because I have 2 skeins of this. So I don't have that much to hold it double. And I was surprised. I really did like how this ribbing pattern worked up with this yarn because the columns are really neat and there's really a lot of stitch definition. And so I was like, okay, I'll just make a swatch and do the math, and I'll just cast on a number that makes sense. Usually when I do this, when I resize, if you can call it that, or when I do measurements, when I do calculations for different yarn, I make a gauge swatch and I look at the measurement that the pattern calls for in my size and use that measurement to find out how many stitches I will have to cast on for the yarn I'm using specifically. And then I compare that number to a number from a different size recommended in the pattern. So for example, this is where my shit, which I already have ready here, comes in handy. No, let me take this one. I made a modification of the sheer V sweater. I did the sheer V first, and then I made a modification, and it's, wow, it's big. Holding it up in front of myself. I can't see anything anymore. Hello there. There you are. So I made a modification. I took away I'm German, if you could not tell yet. I took away the V and I made the sleeves mohair, so it's kind of a mixture of the sheer V and the diaphanous raglan. Is it diaphanous? I hope I said that right. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. And because the body is done just in fingering weight yarn, a fingering weight that I would deem to actually be a fingering weight. More on that later, next week or so. And so obviously I didn't get gauge with this. And so I recalculated, and my math told me that I just need to go up one size to make it fit. So instead of casting on a size S, which I did for the V, look into my feet. If I pull this out, it will fall. Sorry. So instead of casting on a size S, I just casted on a size M for this, and that really worked perfectly fine. That worked really good because the numbers were close. I cannot really tell you exact numbers right now because they're on my phone and I'm taping with my phone, so I can't access them right now. But just to give you an idea, it's the sheer V calls for a DK weight to knit, and let's say size M calls for 120 stitches to cast on. And I made a swatch with only fingering weight yarn and a size smaller, needle size smaller, so the stitches wouldn't be too wide. And that gauge measurement, you make a gauge swatch and you measure how many stitches you get on 10 centimeters, and then you do the math, which tell you how many stitches to cast on for a certain measurement. And that stitch count was very close to the 120 stitches, alleged stitches for the size M. So that worked perfectly well for this. And I've tried the same thing with the butt shorts, but it's not the problem of the pattern. First of all, obviously, it's my problem with ribbing, because ribbing is really elastic. It does give a lot. And of course it depends if you like your ribbing to be, well, not so stretched when you wear it, which I don't like it if it's not stretched. Then it's kind of difficult to measure or to get, not to get gauge, but to find out how many stitches to cast on, how many stitches to use. And that was exactly what happened. I was basically not stretching the fabric enough, and so it was just way too loose when I put it on. It would have stayed in place, but I have, like, I don't know what the word is called, but my back goes in very much. It's Hohlkreuz in German. If anyone knows the term, I don't know it right now. Arched back. I have an arched back, and So the waistband from my pants always there's a lot of air in between, and that was exactly what was going on here, and just I didn't like it. And so I frogged it all. Long story short, will never happen here, sorry. I frogged it all, and I went down because with the gauge I had, I think I cast it on a size 3XL with 162 stitches, I think, or 65 or something, 68, something around that. And that was just way too big. And now I went down, I think I went down 3 sizes. I'm not entirely sure, but right now this is now a size L with 132 cast on stitches. Yeah, 132 cast on stitches. So I think that's a size L in the pattern. And I think it will work. Of course, they will stretch more. But I'm also like, this is knitted. So this will stretch over time with use anyway. And I rather have my knits to be a little bit tighter than looser. So, and the only reason why I'm having trouble with this and why it's being so difficult is because I'm not using a yarn that the pattern recommended. So that's all my own fault. As per usual. No, I'm always doing this. I'm always kind of modifying and making things work for me and for the stash I have. And I don't mind that. But it's kind of, I'm adding troubles. I'm adding unnecessary trouble to my creative journey, which can be frustrating. And it's not something I would do if I didn't have the mental bandwidth for it. If I'm like, okay, I cannot deal with this, and I have phases like that where I cannot deal with a self-designed pattern right now because it's too much work for my brain, then I'll just knit a no-brainer. And one of those no-brainers, it's not a no-brainer, no offense to the pattern at all, but something that's really an easy knit, and which is when you do have to pay a little bit attention. But other than that, and I love it so much, this is the All About That Brioche pattern by Lisa Hannes, I think, and I always don't know how to pronounce her Instagram name. Something with an M. But before I pronounce it wrong, I won't pronounce it at all. But if you search for Lisa Hannes, I think you will also find her. You should. And everyone knows, I think, the All About That Brioche show. And if you don't, you really should check it out. You should really be ashamed that you don't know about it yet. Because it's like, I hate shawls. It's always a good introduction. I hate shawls, but I love this shape so much that I'm so glad that I got this pattern, because shawls elude me. And I've taken part in various shawl challenges by McLaughlinKnits. Is it called? I think. I don't know though. I know nothing. I really should have done more research. I'm sorry, but I'm kind of doing this on a whim. She just did it. Why don't I remember? 5-day shawl something. It's embarrassing. People who know Frenchie from McLaughlinKnits will know what I'm talking about. So it's a challenge where for 5 days, every day you get a different, Frenchie explains a different kind of shawl construction. And even though I've participated in lots of those, like 3, 4 up until now, if not 5, they still very much elude me. It's a pity, because recently, for like 6 months, there have been so many shawl patterns out there and newly released that make me go, oh. That's the kind of thing when I go for patterns. If a pattern makes me go, oh, that's when I go for a pattern. And it's been a lot less recently. You know, I've been really kind of had a really low, knitting low a couple of months ago, and who basically pulled me out of that was Jessie May with her patterns. And I think I'm quite sure it started with the V, because I was so obsessed with that, because it was something different, which always sounds kind of trite, but that's really what took me out of that. And all of her designs are so cool that and it's really rare. She doesn't have that many designs yet, compared to Stephen Knits, for example, or even Frenchie. But it's like that I love so many of her patterns, and that's always a good sign. If you love various patterns from the same designer, that's always a good sign for the designer. And it's obviously easier to have that when there's lots of designs out there already. But if it's like 15 or something, that's a really good sign. That's something that any designer can be really proud of. If anyone out there is loving all of, or almost all of their designs right away. And just if it's not the rule but the exception, that you don't like a pattern once in a while, that's really a great thing. But back to shawls. Like I said, I really love this this shape, this kind of winged triangular, which is a sideways bias knit, which means you start knitting here at that end, and then the whole pattern just goes out to here, and eventually I will pull this out this time. It will just grow like that. So people who know the pattern obviously know that there's no brioche in here. People who know brioche will also notice that there's no brioche in here. That's because these were both my leftovers from my Sheer V knits, and because I didn't think brioche made too much sense with that, I just stuck to the garter stitch section and just alternated a fingering weight garter section with a mohair garter section. And it was reminiscent. I actually came up with that idea. I have to be honest enough to say it. I came up with that because of Andrea Mowry's Birds of a Feather shawl, because I'm not sure, but I think that shawl also alternates one block pattern or one block repeat of fingering weight with a block of mohair. And that's when I thought, oh, wait a second, I could do this with the sideways bias from Lisa Hannes. And that's what I did. And I love it so much. I can't get over how much I love it. It's, as you can see, this block right here is a lot less than this because my yarn ran out. My beautiful, beautiful Artemis yarn ran out. Oh, by the way, I've just noticed nothing here is sponsored. Nothing ever is. If that should ever change, I will obviously let you know, but nothing here is sponsored. Any names I mention, any patterns, any yarns, any brands I mention are mentioned because I love them. And if I don't, I will let you know. No, you will notice. Let's face it, if we talk about whether it's knitting of any kind, if we talk about patterns, if we talk about yarn, we have to talk about people, we have to talk about brands. There's no way around it. And none of this is advertisement, none of this is paid advertisement. This video is not sponsored, this video is not monetized. This is just me being bored and hoping to give you a tiny bit of entertainment, a tiny attempt of infotainment, and yeah, just FYI, full disclosure. Yeah, so my yarn ran out when I did this here, and then I used the rest of the mohair, which was not that much either. I thought it could be bigger, but still, it's enough to wrap it round your neck and be very, very happy. It's not blocked yet. I did block it, but I think I'll have to do that one more time to make it better. But still, as you can see, it fits, it's still enough. And please don't ask me how much yarn I had left, because I don't know. I don't remember. Ends, obviously not sewn in yet. One of the many projects that still have their ends, need their ends to be sewn in. If by any chance somebody should meow in the next couple of minutes, that would be my cat, which has just gotten up because she wants to be part of the party pooper, whatever. Yeah, so getting distracted from one project to the next to a second one. So right now, what I really like, if I'm really not feeling like anything, I will knit this. As you can see, I've been too busy with the butt shorts, because this obviously is just, this is not a shawl. This is not even a hanky. This is nothing, seriously. Not even sure I could wear this, so I got a way to go. So like I said, I hate shawls, and I will tell you why. At the end of the day, there's so many stitches on this cable that it scares me. That's the only downside with shawls. Like I said, there have been so many out there recently that make me go, oh my god, it's so beautiful. Because the yarn does a lot, obviously, but when I see stitch combinations that some people think of, lace with garter, with brioche, I don't even, like I said, shawl construction still eludes me. I have no idea how they put that together. And it amazes me because it looks so good when stitches are combined in those ways, especially when talking about different shapes of shawls, because there's like dozens of different shapes and constructions. And my cat is distracting me. I'm sorry, I'm easily distracted. I'm also always moving. I'm sorry. There's so many beautiful shawls out there, but I usually never have the yarn I need for it. I recently got the Slice of Light by Susanne Sommer, which I've been craving for more than a year. And now I've noticed that I need 2 fingering weight yarns and a mohair. I have no mohair. The only mohair I have left is for this. So, and even if I would like, okay, I'm not going to finish this right now, I'm going to use that leftover mohair for that, I wouldn't have enough. I wouldn't have any fingering weight yarn which would work with that. So that's kind of where I was like, she had a sale, I had to get it. Let's face it. But that's kind of the pity when it comes to shawls. I either don't have the yarn, or I'm too scared to cast on the stitches, because not to cast on the stitches, but I'm too scared of the eventual number that will be on the cable of stitches, because it's just not having, like, I don't know, I think the Slice of Light has 400 stitches in the end, which means, like, I'm sorry, could you repeat that again? What? I know people that are scared of sweater constructions, because like, the sweater constructions are so complicated. I'm like, 120 stitches tops, nothing to be scared of, because you do not get to the feeling that you'll never finish. It might seem like that if you've never done a sweater before, that, oh my god, this will never be finished. But when you're thinking about that you have a lot less stitches than with some shawls, it's much easier. You have so much more sense of progress when you knit a sweater which has maybe 120 stitches around the body, than when you're knitting one row of 400 stitches. That's like, if I have a timer on for half an hour knitting, I won't even finish one row. And I'm a fast knitter, and I still won't be able to manage that. And that's what makes me go like, maybe not today, maybe sometime, sometime other, somewhere else at a different time, but not now. So that's my 2 cents on shawls. I love them. I love the constructions. I love the stitch combinations. There's so much that if you want recommendations, let me know. I'm going to hit you up and you're going to knit them and I won't have the trouble. And I'll just admire yours. I'll just admire the ones you do. And then be like, they made it because I told them to. Now I don't have to do them. I only have one project left I have on my needles right now. No, that's a lie. I have a very big and very annoying UFO back there in the corner on my sofa, which I forgot to put here in close proximity. So you will not see that right now because I don't want to be held accountable for that anyway. I casted that on in summer last year. It was supposed to be for the beach when we went on holiday. I didn't manage to get it done on time, and there's now 318 stitches on that. And I think you know now why I do not want to finish that. I do want to finish it. It's just like I'd much rather have it than somebody else finishes it. I wish knitting machines could do lace patterns because it's a lace pattern. It's actually a lace pattern garter stitch combination. So what are knitting machines for anyway? Seriously, if you're a serious knitter, they're basically useless, right? Because I don't know about you, but I love stockinette. I could knit stockinette all day long, especially if I don't have to do any increases. I mean, I don't want to shout out too loud because Sleeve Island is even a bitch with stockinette because this is just the stockinette sleeve, but it's Sleeve Island, so it's still a bitch. But basically I love stockinette. I love the look of stockinette, and especially in the round, I love knitting it because it's just knits. Which brings me to my last, light does not do this beautiful yarn justice. It's so sad. This is such a pretty purple, beige, turquoise, that's the word I was looking for, colorway. And the lighting does not do it justice. I casted on my second Komodo with this. You can see the first on that mannequin back there. And as you can see, I didn't do much here either. I love the Komodo. I love it. I love the way it looks when it's finished. I love stockinette, but I hate knitting it. But I hate knitting it. And it's really, I love the pattern. It looks amazing. But, and it's the same thing as with shawls. I think this also, it might be based off a shawl construction. And if a lot of people were more smarter, I think we'd have lots of more beautifully draped cardigan patterns, which are basically based off of shawl patterns. I know Susanna Sommer also has one, I think the hoodie shawl, something like that, which also looks so good. I can't, again, wrap my hat, not my hat. I can't wrap my head around it, how it works, but that's not what I'm here for. There are people who know how that works, who write the patterns, and that makes sense. They should do that. They should keep doing it. I will keep knitting it. So I'm thinking that this is probably most likely also based off a shawl pattern. The great thing about it, you start casting on with 4 stitches, very reminiscent of a shawl, and you just knit and make increases until you reach your bust measurement, or like some math with your bust measurement, and then you just knit the body down to the length you want, and then you knit the sleeves. That's all there is to it. But because there's a lot of drapey, flowy, because you keep doing increases in every row, not every second row, there's a lot of stitches in the end. So I can't tell you a correct number, but I am assuming that we're talking about maybe 300 stitches by the end. And so we're at the same point with me going like, I've done 1 row now and it took me half an hour. I am annoyed. So that's, even though it's knitting, it's just, especially once you're done with the increases, you only have to do the increases at the beginning and the end of the round of the row, and it's just plain knitting. But because it's row knitting, you have to do knits and then purls on the back, and knits and purls on the back, and purling always takes longer no matter what you do, and so that's it's kind of a drag. It is kind of a drag. So, but I'm looking forward to the finished project, and I will finish it. Just not now, which is why I don't know if you heard that. That was Mo saying hi. That was Mo saying, there's a bird outside, I want it, but for the sake. No, so this kind of stuff, this is kind of me like being an idiot, you know, like casting on a cardigan, which will end up with a big stitch count in the end, and therefore take ages. And on the other hand, casting on a shawl, which will also in the end have a big stitch count, and then wondering why I don't feel like knitting. But that's where Jessie May is my savior again, because she brings teeny tiny garments. She brings tiny garments which can be done in a couple of days. I think normal me would have been done with this long ago, but quarantine me does take a little longer, because I actually have been busy with other stuff, weirdly. Yeah, but I think some people have managed to do this in 1 day, maybe 2, depending on the size, obviously. And yeah, it's more fun. I have to admit, there's more going on. So it's kind of, when I don't have mental bandwidth, I do mindless knitting, because that means I don't have to think. But if I'm like bored, then I need knitting where I have to do increases and short rows, because it's more interesting, it's more entertaining. And that's what I need right now. That's what I need right now. Yeah, and that's actually, I've managed to make good time. I was anticipating half an hour. We're going to end up maybe 35 if I move it a little bit more quickly right now. So these are the 3 projects I've got going on. The Ripple Butt Shorts, the Komodo, and I've renamed it to the All About That Mohair shawl. I'm very proud of me coming up with that. And obviously still pattern Lisa Hannes. Malina Designs? Mahalia Designs? I don't know, I'm sorry. She has a beautiful flower blossom in her picture, in her Instagram picture. Beautiful. So embarrassing. I'm not going to be influencer of the day. I kind of get the feeling that's not going to be me today. But yeah, those are my 3 current projects, and I've been wanting to do, the next video should be the projects I intend to do sometime soon. So it might take longer. No, I'll recalculate a bit. So I'll be talking about the patterns I have that I really want to do, and the yarn or the patterns that I can do with the stash I have at the moment. So I'll talk first about the patterns I have, and then I'll talk about the patterns I will be casting on next. And I've asked on Instagram as well if you have any ideas what I should talk about, no matter what. And I mean that. It doesn't even have to be just yarn related. I can just sit here and talk about something else and knit at the same time. That's kind of a what's that ASMR thing that you would be going for. We could do that too. It's just I want to engage more, and I want to start conversations, and I want to engage more with people who are interested in what I do, because in real life, I don't have close friends that are interested in knitting. My very best friend calls it grandma hobby. Yeah, we're used to that, aren't we? Anyway, yeah, so let me know if there's anything that you like to know, if there's some sort of pattern suggestions or yarn suggestions, or if you might need help with a pattern, I think that could be managed if I asked the pattern designer in advance. It depends, because most questions they can ask themselves. It's kind of, it's in terms of how much time do they have to respond, but most of them have pattern support themselves. So it's not that you need me for that. I know, I know I'm on a clock, I know. Yeah, but that's it for now, and let's knit for now. And I'll try to see you next week. I hope I'll be able to manage to tape it a little bit earlier and then upload it earlier, because I have no idea how long this upload will take. I'm hoping that I won't have to cut too much. I know I have one cut in here, but because that would be easier. The less I have to cut, the better, because I don't have any kind of video software for that. Video editing software is non-existent in this house. Nothing that a normal YouTuber has exists in this house. I have to make do. So I hope this will work, and I hope you enjoyed it a little bit and maybe took your mind off of things just a bit. Have a good day or good night. Nighttime's closing in on us.